If someone does this against you, disappear from that person's life. There comes a point in life when staying connected to certain people starts costing you more peace than their presence is worth. At first, you try to understand them, excuse them, and give them the benefit of doubt, hoping things will improve with time. But slowly you realize that what you are calling hope is actually just repetition of the same emotional pain in different forms. And the hardest truth is that not everyone in your life is meant to grow with you. Some are only meant to teach you when to walk away. If someone repeatedly disrespects your feelings, ignores your boundaries, and still expects access to your time, that is not confusion. That is choice. People show you who they are not through one mistake, but through consistent behavior that never changes even after you speak up. And when someone keeps repeating the same hurtful pattern after knowing how it affects you, they are no longer unaware. They are intentional. At that point, your pain is no longer something they failed to see. It is something they chose to ignore. If someone only comes close when they need something from you, but disappears when you need support, that is emotional imbalance. A healthy connection does not operate like a one-way system where only one person gives and the other only takes. And if you keep accepting that imbalance, you slowly start teaching people that your emotional needs do not matter. Over time, you begin to feel like your presence is valuable only when it is useful to others. If someone constantly twists your words, misunderstands you on purpose, or turns your emotions against you, that is manipulation. Because real understanding does not require you to constantly defend your feelings or explain your intentions again and again. When someone truly cares, they try to understand you, not confuse you until you doubt your own reality. But manipulation works slowly. It makes you question yourself instead of questioning them. And one of the most dangerous signs is when you start feeling anxious, confused, or emotionally unstable every time you interact with someone. Your nervous system never lies, even when your mind is trying to justify their behavior. Peaceful relationships calm you down. They do not leave you in emotional chaos after every conversation. If someone consistently disturbs your peace, that disturbance is already the answer you are looking for. If someone never takes responsibility for their actions and always shifts blame onto you, that is emotional avoidance. Because accountability is not about admitting everything is your fault. It is about recognizing when you have caused harm and choosing to change. But when someone refuses to accept responsibility, they also refuse to change, and that means the cycle will repeat. And you cannot build stability with someone who avoids responsibility every time things get uncomfortable. If someone only respects you when you are distant, but ignores you when you are available, that is control through inconsistency. They give you attention in patterns, not because of genuine care, but to keep you emotionally attached and uncertain. This kind of behavior creates addiction, because your mind keeps chasing the moments when they are finally kind again. And that emotional chasing slowly replaces your self-respect without you even realizing it. If someone uses silence as punishment, disappears without explanation, and returns like nothing happened, that is emotional control. Because silence in healthy relationships is not used to create fear or confusion, it is used to create space for understanding. But when silence is used as a weapon, it is designed to make you anxious and force you to chase them. And every time you chase, you weaken your own emotional boundaries a little more. If someone repeatedly breaks promises, fails to change, and still expects you to trust their words, you are not dealing with misunderstanding. You are dealing with a pattern where words are used to reset your hope while behavior stays exactly the same. And trust without consistency is just emotional self-deception that feels like hope but functions like pain. At some point, you have to stop believing what is said and start observing what is repeatedly done. If someone constantly drains your energy, makes you feel small, or leaves you emotionally exhausted after every interaction, that is a sign. Not every connection in your life is meant to uplift you. Some are meant to show you what depletion feels like. And when you ignore that exhaustion long enough, you start normalizing emotional fatigue as part of love. But love is not supposed to feel like recovery from constant emotional damage. If someone keeps you stuck in cycles of hope, disappointment, apology, and temporary affection, that is emotional conditioning. Because cycles like that create attachment not through love, but through repetition and emotional highs and lows. And the longer you stay in such cycles, the harder it becomes to recognize what stable love actually feels like. Stable love does not confuse you, it does not punish you, and it does not keep you guessing where you stand. If someone refuses to respect your boundaries even after you clearly communicate them, that is not forgetfulness. That is disregard. Boundaries are not suggestions. They are clear expressions of what you will and will not accept in your life. And when someone repeatedly crosses them, they are showing you that your limits do not matter to them. At that point, staying becomes less about love and more about self-abandonment. There is a moment in every painful connection when explanation stops working. You realize you have said everything clearly, emotionally, and repeatedly, yet nothing changes. And when understanding is replaced with repetition of harm, it means the connection is no longer healthy. It is stuck. That is the point where silence and distance become more powerful than any conversation you could have. If someone only values you when you are available, but disrespects you when you are present, that is emotional convenience. They do not value you as a person. They value the emotional access you give them when it suits their needs. And when love becomes conditional on convenience, it stops being love and becomes usage. You are not meant to be available only when someone remembers your worth. If someone repeatedly makes you feel confused about where you stand, that confusion is not accidental. Clarity is not something that disappears in healthy connections. It is something that is maintained through consistent behavior. And confusion is often a sign that someone benefits from keeping you uncertain and emotionally attached. Because clarity would give you power, and they rely on you not having that power. At some point, the strongest decision is not to argue, not to explain, and not to wait for change anymore. It is to quietly remove yourself from a situation that has proven it cannot give you peace. Disappearing is not about anger or revenge. It is about stopping participation in something that keeps harming you. Because some people only change when they lose access to you completely. And when you finally step away, something important happens inside you. The noise begins to fade, the confusion starts to settle, and your thoughts become your own again. You start seeing the situation without emotional distortion, without hope covering the reality of repeated behavior. And what once felt like attachment slowly reveals itself as exhaustion you mistaken for love. You realize that peace was never on the other side of fixing them. It was on the other side of leaving. And the moment you choose yourself without announcing it, you begin returning to your own emotional stability. Because in the end, disappearing from what destroys your peace is not loss. It is recovery. And that is the moment your life finally starts belonging to you again.